So hello, welcome to Mastering Dungeons. Thank you all for coming, and thank you to Gamehole Con for hosting. I'm Shawn Merwin, and I am here with my not at all pungent co-host, Teos.
Hi, Shawn.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's going great.
Yeah, we're recording in front of people, which is awkward because normally we're half dressed and barely. Oh well, that's just me. Never mind. But it's always exciting to come here and record live for all you folks because it reminds us that there are people out there listening. Sometimes as you're recording, you forget that. And so this is a great reminder that there are people out there. Generally happy, it looks like. Maybe sometimes angry. I don't know. Maybe we'll get to angry from happy if we work hard enough.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to jump right into our listener corner?
Yeah, and we had a good question about what our best game was, and I was saying that Jeremy Crawford ran an incredible game of Daggerheart. Have you played games?
I did. I played a game with an up-and-coming designer named Teos. You should check him out sometime. He ran a game about exploration in D&D and exploration in games. He's handing me money. Apparently I'm worth $1 now, which is adjusted for inflation. But Teos runs a great game. Last year he did traps, and so he ran the game with everyone playing a rogue and different ways you could do traps and pitfalls, no pun intended, about putting traps in adventures, and that was great. So I did it again this year as he explored exploration. And it was great. We looked at the history of exploration in games, and especially in Dungeons and Dragons, over the editions. It was a great learning experience for me, and then a lot of fun as well.
You're very kind. It was fun. It's like sometimes you just want to do something that you don't think other people have really done, and you're like, that'll probably fail, but whatever. And it actually worked, and I'm so happy that the format has worked. So I was happy to see that it wasn't just something that worked with traps. It kind of works with exploration too. So.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about how important it might be to film a game master running a game and then stop and look at the camera and say, well, the reason I chose this was blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And for a lot of people, that's what actual plays are, or that's what they've become, a learning experience. But to actually get into the mind, well, hopefully, for many DMs, it would be a good space to be in, but get into the mind of the game master as they go through this process.
Yeah.
So Teos actually put that into action.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun to think about. All right, let's try generative hex crawling, or let's try a journey system, and to actually do it so that you, even if you've read about it, like you're talking about, or seen an actual play, to do it and go through it, I think is a different way of learning. So cool.
Yep. So we've taken one question, and since you are all now our listeners, if you have any questions, we're going to do the question section up front. Normally a panel is at the end. We have 2 minutes. We'll take questions, but now we want to take questions now. So if you have any questions about games, about the podcast, about anything, give us a wave, and we'll answer it. The look of fear is palpable.
As the panel yesterday about the open platform idea, I thought was really interesting. One question I was wanting to ask but ran out of time was something I found really useful about that is the modularity on the game master side of you can switch out the monsters and the environments. The game can feel totally different, but it still kind of works. And I don't know, I'm curious if you have experienced that, because I feel like in my experience if I have a different GM, the game can feel entirely different, but it still kind of just works.
Yeah, the just in case the mic didn't pick up the question, it was about modularity of the game, but on the game master side, where you can swap out things, and even though it's sort of the same situation, it can play completely differently.
Yeah, I love using subsystems in my games and just inserting that into play, both because it keeps my game fresh, but also changes things up for the players. It teaches you new techniques, right? And we were talking about this in the thing that I ran, where when you do something okay, I'm going to use a campfire system where at nighttime when we rest, we will have a topic that we discuss. And it can be a little awkward at first, depending on the group or as you're trying to figure it out. But what ends up happening is a type of play will emerge that you didn't have in your game before because you put in this little module. And I think 5th edition is very nice at being because it was created deliberately with the idea of pleasing a lot of different kinds of players, it means that it accepts a lot of things being added into it, which is really cool.
I have run the same adventure 7 times at the same convention and run it 7 different ways because of the players. So if I see a player group that is very much into picking up every stone in a room, I am going to add things to the room that will make that exploration count. So all of a sudden, it's not just fight the monster, it's, there are buttons around the room that do different things. And it's that sort of openness that a game like D&D or any RPG can add if you can pick up on the cues that the players are giving you. So it's a different answer than he gave, but it's the same sort of concept, whereas every game can be different no matter what's written on the page in front of you.
Yeah.
So mine was just kind of random with the recent Unearthed Arcanas that have been coming out. What do you think the odds are that we will see Athos or Darkside in some form?
That's an emotionally charged question. You just asked me and other members of our audience who are working on Dark Sun.
Just for the record, Teos is wearing a Dark Sun t-shirt.
Yeah, every con I feel like I have to represent and bring it. So I really hope the answer is yes, right? Like I want people to, like all of us do, when we really love a thing, we want other people to experience it and enjoy the joy that we've been able to enjoy from it. And so I hope that the answer is yes, but like Scott Fitzgerald Gray made that hilarious joke of it's probably just going to be in the big book of settings we'll never touch again. There are good chances of all of it. And it could also be that they're like, well, let's see how people react to this Unearthed Arcana, and then maybe we'll go sideways and not do it or do it. And so it's really unpredictable. Mm-hmm. I would not place a bet on anything. I think even if they said, like, Teos, please come in and do some Dark Sun work, I'd be like, I don't know, this will see the light of day. We have both worked on a lot of projects that never see the light of day. Which is sad, tremendously sad. Right. But so you just never know.
It can be for any reason, too. It can be completely outside the purview of the people that actually own the IP. Anything could happen in the world. And all of a sudden, the social tenor changes, and now we can't get near that. So there's not even necessarily a fault involved if something does or doesn't happen. It is for the same reason Teos is talking about, a bet I wouldn't want to make.
I know that the team said that in 4th edition, one of the reasons that they brought the world back was because there was such a strong fan base, right? There were people that were constantly bringing energy to Dark Sun. And so they realized, well, there really are people that really love this, and it probably makes sense to come back to that. I think that the world has some challenges, but they're all things that can be overcome. We're all smart. We can come up with good ways to have healthy conversations. At the root of it is that Athos is a story of inequality. And I don't know if you guys know that that's actually resonating with today's world. But it is. Spoiler, it is. So,
yeah, I've said that in many meetings. Can you imagine some oppressive societies that are taking the actual life force out of people and not allowing them to be free or even live? I can't imagine that resonates with any of us.
Great question.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
This is the first time I'm listening to the podcast live or present in the audience. What am I supposed to do with that 90 minutes of my time?
You should listen to it again, so you've been missing it. No.
Right. Listen to the Eldritch Lorecast.
Is that the number one?
I think it is the number one.
The number one podcast in all the realms, as opposed to everyone's favorite podcast, which is
Sly Flourish.
Right, which is. I had my lawyers check the text on that to make sure it was all right.
Is anybody here from Iceland? That's too bad.
We were the number 43rd.
Was it that high?
Yeah, something like that in
Either
Iceland.
Way, we're up and coming in Iceland, is what we'd like to say. And, shout out.
I'm learning
Bjork.
Icelandish right now.
Yeah, I listen to only Bjork these days.
That's good. Very good question, by the way. Any other questions? All right. Oh, please.
What was the biggest surprise in the industry this year since the last time you did this line?
I mean, Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford,
Yeah,
I think
that was
high up there.
the question was what it was the biggest surprise in the industry, and that was huge. Having both of them leave Wizards, and then almost immediately it seemed sign on with Darrington Press. That's a huge thing. The games, Daggerheart, Draw Steel, and those sorts of games. Cosmere becoming as popular as they did. Not only, it's not a surprise, what the surprise will be is how long they last. Mm-hmm. Whether it's they become a thing that everyone plays for a year and then they sort of tail off, or if they grow. That will be the question I will be watching as we go.
And it's important to note that like we're not knocking those games, right? Like,
oh, no.
Because D&D, if you look at say 3rd edition sales, went really high and then immediately began to drop.
Right.
This is what games normally do. And so, they're all, for as good and as huge and as popular as D&D is, all these 3rd edition players played for about a year or two and then stopped buying more stuff, right? And so that's what normally happens. And so to live in a world where Shadow Dark has to reprint a massive amount of copies is incredible, not just for Kelsey, but for the hobby. And if this can happen for multiple games, it'll be really good. And the problem we always have, this duality of most games are being sold to the people that, say, came in with Dungeons & Dragons to round up, versus humanity. D&D is the one that's going out to all of humanity. And if more games can cross that barrier and make it more of a semi-permeable membrane, welcome to science class.
Yeah. Because we want the industry to grow.
Yeah.
Right? We want more people to play with. We want more people invested. We want the joy of this game and all the benefits it gives to society to be felt by more people.
Yeah.
And so that's what I know Teos and I are hoping, is that it's not just we're taking from D&D players, but we are adding to the core of the game through these other avenues of play.
So related to that, so I've heard some nervousness from publishers about what next year is going to look like and the survivability of just the business of RPGs because of current events.
Yeah.
How much of a factor do you think that could play into these new games surviving, not or having less success in relation to just the logistical side of the business versus pure popularity and adoption by the fans?
I have not done a historical study of RPG play versus societal, but within the last 7 years, we have had quite an upheaval in society through a pandemic. And what happened during that time was play increased because people had forced solitude where they were reaching out to find ways to interact and express themselves. It's the kind of upheaval that will determine if that happens going forward. If you still have the freedom to interact, people will interact through crises. If you don't have that freedom to interact, will the act of that become a protest? I am protesting my lack of freedom by speaking out, by interacting, by doing these things that I have been told aren't right. Well, that's what D&D was in the 80s, right? It was the satanic panic, you shouldn't do it, but there were people that wanted to express themselves in this way, and that oppression became an impetus to play.
Yeah.
For some, not for everyone, but for some.
But on the financial side, do you think the barrier of tariffs, even if a game's popular and people want it, is that going to be, how big of a barrier could that be right now in terms of, yeah, there's a demand, but I just can't afford to make it because it takes upfront money.
It'll have to hurt, because I think, there was a time when Kickstarter was seen as a way of saving money, and that's not necessarily why people back projects, but that was, you sort of felt like, oh, you're getting, your Numenera book will be a little bit cheaper because you're buying it now versus later. And yeah, there's shipping, but shipping's so cheap, so we don't have to worry about that. And now we really have to worry about that and tariffs on top. And so at some point, I think people do start saying like, well, if I back this, sure, it's $60 for the hardback, but the shipping will be some large amount and the tariff amount will be some large amount. And now it's a sizable purchase. Should you wait and maybe pick it up at your gaming store or not? And as we probably all know, the mechanics of a person buying in a store versus seeing that Kickstarter page, it's a different part of our brain that gets triggered. And it's very easy to walk away from the shelf. It's harder to walk away from the Kickstarter page unless there's such a large, friction being applied to it.
Yeah, and a lot of it will then become, can I play digitally? Either through a PDF or through a portal or even through a virtual tabletop. But again, that doesn't account for a lot of the production costs that are offset by physical sales. So the answer is, I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see whether we see some sort of decline or maybe, as in the past, like during the pandemic, there was some, projections of tightening of belts, and yet people actually spent a lot on games because it gave them a pretty good return even when people were losing jobs and things like that. So, it's possible that we'll see that it will not behave that way, right? How elastic is it?
Mm-hmm. Good question. Anyone else? Yes.
On that, do you think that could push games to be more of a premium product for people who don't mind extra much tariffs, so they'll have more and more premium material?
God, I hope not. The world is already driven too much by, housing is fine because the really wealthy people can buy houses is a not a great place to be. And I think that if we want wide adoption of games can't just be premium. I mean, we used to laugh and say there should be some premium options because everything was affordable or pretty affordable-ish. And if it only goes expensive, I think we will lose audience, and that'll be a problem.
Yeah, I can't add too much to that.
All right, some news?
Let's get to some news. Do you want to talk about this first bit of news?
Sure, yeah. We only have a couple of news items since we're doing this live, but thought it would be good to knock a couple out that are interesting. And speaking of large companies and finances, Asmodee controls Lord of the Rings tabletop. And so the very enormous tabletop giant Asmodee and the company Middle-earth Enterprises are both owned by the even more enormous Embracer Group. And they have announced a new strategic agreement under which Asmodee is the exclusive tabletop games category manager for the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit licenses. So they will be the ones who dole out whether anybody can do something in the world of tabletop rather than it being directly with Middle-earth Enterprises. And so what this does is it means the company that you might know from making Catan or Ticket to Ride, but they are enormous and huge, and Embracer's even bigger. It makes you wonder, so how does it work for Free League now? And there was a quote about saying that existing license agreements between tabletop game publishers and Middle-earth Enterprises will continue in their current form. But that's always what these press releases say. And so it'll be interesting to see whether it changes anything for other tabletop creators.
Yeah, I wonder if this if Magic would have happened, if this had been in place.
Or did it cause it?
That's a very good question.
Yeah, so new licensees from here on out will have to go through Asmodee to decide, what should be done with the creations that you're doing. I don't know if that's what will happen for Free League. Do they get grandfathered in and they get to just do whatever they have done before, or do they have to now go and get approval for a new source book? Who knows?
We are getting new Magic types from D&D Beyond previews. So coming up on November 11th will be Forgotten Realms, Heroes of Faerun. And we got a preview of one of the things that will be in that book, which is Circle Magic. It is a method, or so we are told, for amplifying a spell through coordinated teamwork. When the circle spell is initiated, one caster will be the lead. The others will be the secondary casters and lend their magic to expand, extend, or reshape the spell's effects beyond what is normally possible by a single caster. So what can you do? You can augment by extending the range. You can distribute. You can share concentration between casters. You can expand by increasing the area of effect. You can prolong by sustaining the spell longer. Safeguard by shaping the spell to avoid hurting allies. You can supplant. You can replace material components that are expensive, and there might be other additional effects based on the spell. We get 2 new spells that will be in the book. We don't get the stat block for them. We just get a general description, including Doomtide, creating a 20-foot radius sphere of inky darkness that can deal 5d6 psychic damage to creatures caught within. But that's not all. Those who fail their saving throw subtract 1d6 from their saving throws until the end of their next turn. We also get Spellfire Storm, a 20-foot radius, 20-foot high cylinder of Spellfire that deals 4d10 radiant damage to creatures within, but it also interferes with creatures who attempt to cast spells from inside that area of effect.
Oh.
So what do you think about this idea of sharing the casting load? And it generally affects any spell that would normally go over a minute.
Okay. I mean, one thing that I immediately think is, oh, cool, now I can have like shared concentration of the bad thing. I'm like thinking with my DM brain, like now I could have multiple enemy spellcasters concentrating on this effect that I want to have, and that could be really cool.
Yeah.
You gotta take them all out and immediately writing an encounter. It's great.
This thought came to me while I was working on the Ghostfire gaming stuff. Of in our fiction, in our movies, in our stories, magic is often something done from far away and lasts a long time. But in D&D, it's generally pew, 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 and then you're done. Maybe it lasts for a minute if it's a buff or a debuff. So this idea of a long-term spell that lasts forever and does different things, we turned into curses. So you could be cursed, or you can curse something and they get away, but they're going to suffer debilitating effects over a long period of time. So when this story came out, I was like, I wonder if they're going to tinker with that. And this didn't give us enough information to know how it will work with existing spells, or what other new spells might be created in order to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
But it's just an interesting design concept that was just put up yesterday, so
I dig
we
it.
discuss it.
I think it's neat. Source books, I like them when they add a new aspect like this, because it has to be tough for the team to kind of go like, do we put this in here? Is this going to be like, is it going to land? Is it going to be abused by players? And so I'm glad that they're taking that creative risk and doing something new.
Right, and the first thing I think of is haste. Right, so a spell like haste, can you like make it go on forever? If you have enough casters to
if you know you'll make it through the combat, then that effect is the downside of haste becomes a lot less worrisome.
Any thoughts on that from game design minds out there?
So the first thing I thought of was Red Wizards. That's where that circle magic comes at from second edition. The other thing I was thinking about is, so are we expecting to have 5 players all be magic type casters now?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question, because how many, if you're creating new characters with the 2024 rules, I'm creating a fighter, but I have 3 different spells because of my background and because of feats and because of this and because of that. Is that a caster now? Can the fighter just, okay, good, we're good.
I wonder what with the central caster, like what's the cost to the others to participate?
Right.
It'd be a cost, right?
You would think that wasn't discussed. Is it going to be a bonus action? Is it going to be you can just sort of do it and then walk away?
Second edition was kind of famous for creating these systems that once you read it, you're like, well, I guess we won't actually do that. But I guess we really built lore. It was like we did, right? Because
one thing I'm thinking is like in a lot of books and stuff, there's ways for like circles of casters to cast like really powerful spells.
Right.
So there'd be the way to like cast, like if you don't have an 8th level slot, you have 7th level, if everyone works together, can they cast like an 8th level spell?
Ooh.
That's a good question.
Cool.
At the end of the article, it talked about a meteor swarm being cast by a group at 9th level spell, so that would be something.
Yeah, I'm thinking like Eldritch Magic or higher than 9th level. I think would be cool to do this. You can have spells that can have a vast area, and you can also then introduce long casting times. So you can cast like I'm thinking about using in my campaign. I've used you can have aerial curses. You can curse the land over a square mile or something like that, and then you can have a casting time of a couple of hours. So you can see the clouds and the spell they're working on it, and you can see it, and that way you can get out and you can stay and try and fight it. So that could be something you use.
Yeah.
I love this.
Broadcasters.
Yeah.
I love it because it's Anna B. Meyer, who's a cartographer, talking about, mile-sized spells. I'm like, oh, that's of course you do. Yes, yes. And on my map.
That's right. We need to draw really big maps of cursed lands.
Well, there's already a little bit of precedent for that in 2014 with I think the spells that you can cast every day over the course of a year to change a mile radius
Right.
to make it lush, right?
Right.
And things like Hallow and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Making those kinds of events permanent more quickly
Right.
would be pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that would be.
As a designer, I love it because, as you say, it brings it closer to the fiction and the sentiment of stuff we're used to from a history of fantasy genre.
Right.
Not knowing how it works, I saw that it dropped, I hadn't had time to read it. To address the question of is everyone going to be a spellcaster, I would put a level pool
Right.
that you could have like 2 9th level people or 5 2nd level people, or as long as you hit the prerequisite.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure that'll all be handled in the actual book. This is just sort of a teaser of it, but it'll be interesting to see how they implement it.
I wonder if they'll also, like part of those requirements will have casters of the same type, right? Your divine, your primal, and your arcane. If they'll be able to actually cross those barriers with one another to cast bigger spells.
Right, yeah.
I'm imagining the comic strip that would be like, dude, what are you doing, Druid? Like, no, man, put some shoes on. That's not the kind of magic we're doing here. What's happening?
Yeah. All right, shall we get this final bit of news?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
Trevor Kidd and Monica Paprocki have joined Kobold Press, and the name Trevor Kidd is probably known to some folks who've been around in our industry for a while because he used to be a community manager for D&D during the 4th edition days. Super nice guy. In the early days, the nascent days of Twitter being a healthy place and fun place. I remember that. It was great. And he has worked at Lone Shark Games as well, doing community management work. So it's really fun to see him for those of us who have interacted with D&D team members of Trevor back working at Kobold Press. And Monica Paprocki is the social media manager. She is a Philippine-born marketing professional and former accountant. She's also a professional prop and costume maker who judges cosplay contests around the country. She teaches classes for Chicago Public Libraries and has worked for Cephalofair Games.
Awesome. Congratulations to Kobold Press and to those two. And let's get to our creator corner. We usually talk about something that's being created at this moment. We wanted to hear what you're excited about that's being created at this moment. Anybody have a favorite project that they're waiting on, something that they've been looking forward to, anything that's just come out? Yeah.
I want to mention Erica Lowe's Ragnarborg Kickstarter that's going on right now. She's in the hallway demoing things right now.
Sweet.
I think it's a fantastic project, and it falls in line with this family of boards that we now have over the last 5 to 6 years, and it just continues to blossom and merge into newfound ways on how to apply this very rules-light systems.
Okay, that's Ragnarborg.
Ragnarborg.
And by whom?
Eric Lowe
Eric Lowe.
at Broken Brain Games.
Broken Brain Games. We got it. Awesome. Yes.
I think any day now, the 3rd edition of Apocalypse World is going to be kickstarted.
Right. Yeah, that's something I was going to put in the news probably in a couple weeks. But the 3rd edition of Apocalypse World will be kickstarting very, very soon. A seminal game in our industry that has spawned so many great games coming from it.
The Invincible Kickstarter from Free League is something that my kids are excited about. That was, they have all those gigantic comic books.
Right.
And the cartoon was on. I think that was going to be very excited to see them take.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, Free League is so good at getting these licenses. It's really incredible. And so, the Invincibles as a supers option is really fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, should we get into our main topic?
Let's do it.